In the intricate tapestry of life on Earth, every thread plays a crucial role. Today, we focus our attention on one such thread that often goes unnoticed despite its immense significance: the trees. Majestic and enduring, trees stand as silent sentinels, their existence deeply intertwined with the very fabric of life itself. From the towering pines in the northern hemisphere to the ancient baobabs in the south, from the colossal sequoias in the west to the resilient mangroves in the east, trees are the lifeblood of our planet. They breathe life into our world, silently combating climate change, purifying our air, and providing shelter to countless species. But what makes trees so vital for life on Earth? Join us as we embark on a journey to unravel the myriad roles of these green guardians and explore their indispensable contribution to our planet's health and sustainability. Firstly, trees are the lungs of our planet. They undergo a process called photosynthesis, converting carbon dioxide and water into oxygen and glucose. This oxygen is released into the atmosphere, providing the air we breathe. In fact, a single tree can produce up to 100 kilograms of oxygen each year. Photosynthesis is the process by which trees, along with other plants, convert carbon dioxide and water into oxygen and glucose. This process can be broken down into two main steps: light-dependent reactions. During this stage, light energy captured by the chloroplasts in the thylakoid membrane of the plant is stored as adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. This stage takes place within the thylakoid membrane and requires a steady stream of sunlight. Calvin cycle. ATP moves to a different part of the plant cell, the stroma, where it creates glucose that the plant will use as food and releases oxygen as excess. This stage takes place in the stroma, the space between the thylakoid membranes and the chloroplast membranes, and does not require light. The oxygen produced during photosynthesis is released into the air, providing the oxygen we breathe. The glucose created is used by the tree to create energy. It's important to note that not all trees produce the same amount of oxygen. This is due to the overall leaf mass, also known as leaf area index. For example, pine trees produce the least amount of oxygen because of their thin needles, while Douglas fir, spruce, true fir, beech, and maple trees give off the most oxygen. Trees are the ultimate carbon capture and storage machines. They absorb carbon dioxide, CO2, a major greenhouse gas, from the atmosphere during photosynthesis. This process involves the conversion of CO2 and water into oxygen and glucose, the latter of which is used by the tree for growth and energy. The growth of trees results in CO2 being taken out of the atmosphere to form woody tissues, which are a major part of the carbon stock of an area. Approximately 50% of the dry mass of woody material is comprised of carbon. Therefore, a growing stand of trees represents a net removal of CO2 from the atmosphere. The entire woodland ecosystem plays a huge role in locking up carbon, including the living wood, roots, leaves, deadwood, surrounding soils, and its associated vegetation. For example, the woodlands of the UK lock up 213 million tons of carbon in living trees. A young wood with mixed native species can lock up over 400 tons of carbon per hectare in trees, roots, and soil. Moreover, trees also fight the cruel effects of a changing climate. They can help prevent flooding, reduce city temperature, reduce pollution, and keep soil nutrient-rich. It's not just new woodland. The UK's precious semi-natural ancient woodlands store a huge quantity of carbon and can continue to accumulate more despite being centuries old. In addition to carbon sequestration, trees release water vapor through pores in their leaves, a process called evapotranspiration. This process, similar to human sweating, cools the trees and their surroundings. Also, uneven forest canopies can have a cooling effect as they provide an undulating surface that can bump hot, overpassing fronts of air upward and away. Trees are our allies in the fight against climate change. They absorb CO2, store carbon, and help cool the environment, playing a crucial role in mitigating the effects of climate change. Trees are nature's air purifiers. They absorb harmful pollutants such as carbon dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and particulate matter from the atmosphere. This process is different from simply capturing CO2, as it involves a wider range of pollutants. Gaseous pollutants. Trees absorb gaseous pollutants such as nitrogen dioxide, ozone, and sulfur dioxide through their stomata, the tiny pores on their leaves. These gases are then broken down and stored in the tree, effectively removing them from the atmosphere. Particulate matter. Trees also capture particulate matter, which consists of tiny particles of chemicals, soil, dust, and allergens. These particles can cause heart and lung diseases when inhaled by humans. Trees capture particulate matter on their leaves and bark, and when it rains, these particles are washed off and absorbed into the soil. Trees play a vital role in reducing flooding in several ways. Interception. Trees, with their lofty canopies, intercept rainwater, with some raindrops slipping through the gaps between the leaves and stems, falling directly to the ground as throughfall. This intercepted water is held temporarily on the surfaces of leaves and bark. Eventually, it either evaporates into the atmosphere, trickles down the trunk to the ground as stem flow, or falls off the surfaces to the ground as further throughfall. Increased soil infiltration. Large and deep tree roots punch through the soil, and rainwater can flow deeper into the soil before being flooded and looking for another path. This means that for any given area of land, the soil under trees has the potential to store much more water and delay its passage downstream than the same area under grass. Slowing the flow. Trees that are planted alongside streams and rivers and the presence of fallen trees and branches work to slow the speed of floodwaters. Where rivers have had trees planted on their banks and the presence of tree debris, water flow has slowed significantly enough during flooding to prevent damage to the built environment, such as bridges. Reducing silt in waterways. Tree roots hold soil firm and in place. The more soil held in place, the less silt runoff there is, and the better downstream water flow is. Trees are the living towers of the natural world, providing shelter, food, and breeding grounds for a multitude of species. They are the backbone of forest ecosystems, supporting a wealth of biodiversity. Food source. Trees produce a variety of food sources for wildlife, including leaves, fruits, nuts, and seeds. These food sources attract a wide range of species, from insects and birds to mammals. Shelter and breeding grounds. The branches, leaves, bark, and roots of trees provide shelter for various species. Birds build nests in the branches, insects and small mammals find refuge in the bark, and larger mammals use the shade of trees for rest. Microhabitats. Trees also create microhabitats, which are small, specialized habitats within the larger forest ecosystem. These microhabitats can be found in the tree's canopy, trunk, roots, and even in dead or decaying parts of the tree. Tree ecosystem and wildlife. The tree ecosystem is a complex network of interactions between the tree and the various species that depend on it. This includes not only the animals that live in the tree, but also the plants, fungi, and microorganisms that form part of the tree's ecosystem. For example, certain fungi and bacteria help decompose dead organic matter, returning nutrients to the soil. These nutrients are then taken up by the tree, promoting its growth and the production of food sources for other species. The number of species that reside in trees is staggering. Forests can contain up to 60,000 different tree species. According to a study by the United Nations World Conservation Monitoring Center in 2020, forests contain 80% of amphibian species, 75% of bird species, and 68% of the world's mammal species. An estimated 25,000 creatures are believed to inhabit a single tree in some way or another, species of insects. In 2017, 22 researchers from 13 different institutions participated in a study to determine the total number of living species, including bacteria, algae, fungi, lichens, invertebrates, wildlife, and plant life, that depend on a single average tree. The research team was supported by a National Science Foundation grant. The study was published as a paper called Synthesis of Phylogeny and Taxonomy into a Comprehensive Tree of Life. It was discovered that a total of 2.3 million living species depend on a single average tree. However, the study did not provide a breakdown by species. The biodiversity that trees offer is truly mind-blowing, and though provoking, In our exploration of the multifaceted roles of trees, we have unearthed their profound significance in sustaining life on Earth. From their indispensable function in producing oxygen and mitigating climate change, to their crucial role in purifying our air and providing habitats for a myriad of species, trees are the silent custodians of our planet. Moreover, trees serve as natural flood barriers, and their presence in our urban landscapes brings not only aesthetic appeal, but also tangible economic benefits. They form complex ecosystems that sustain a multitude of species, contributing to the rich biodiversity of our plain. Yet, despite their immense value, trees continue to be felled at an alarming rate. Consumption in G7 countries accounts for an average loss of 4 trees per person per year. The Indian Express newspaper wrote an article in 2020 that in India, tree felling almost doubled between 2016 and 2019, with 30.36 thousand hectares of trees cut down in 2018-2019. Furthermore, BBC News reported in February 2022 that according to Brazilian satellite data, in January 2022, the number of trees cut down in the Brazilian Amazon far exceeded deforestation for the same month the previous year. The area destroyed was 5 times larger than in 2021, marking the highest January total since records began in 2015. Over 800 million trees have been cut down in the last 6 years to meet the world's appetite for Brazilian beef. Finally, the publication Nature reported in November 2023 that around 20% of the Amazon rainforest has now been deforested, and about 40% of the trees that are left are in a degraded state. A degraded state means the tree's health has faded and they are prone to fire and drought. As we conclude our exploration, let's remember the vital role trees play in our lives and our planet. They are more than just a part of our natural landscape. They are an essential component of our global ecosystem, supporting biodiversity, regulating climate, and enhancing human well-being.